Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a bleak time in the history of this country, a time when our constitution and rule of law are being flippantly, albeit sometimes elegantly, undermined. And we are being spun a lie that it's for our own good, that there was no other choice, that actually the people who are dissenting on this issue are just wrong and the government is always right. Yet the rule of law, human rights and our constitution are fundamental to our society, and they guarantee that everyone should get their day in court, that people should be equal before the law, that the courts and the government should be blind to the size of our wallets or any of our many other differences, and that there should be an even playing field on which that contest of ideas should take place. As a country, we have long signed up to these understandings. These agreements are at the very foundation of our democracy, and they're something that I think most New Zealanders are very proud and understand how lucky we are to have that at the foundation of our country. Russell Norman, in a speech earlier this month, though, signalled that something seemed a bit rotten in the beehive. And he noted, "Our democracy is being eaten away by a government that persistently undermines our basic democratic rights and institutions." Now, there was a strong reaction to that speech and a lot of disagreement. Yet his view last week was vindicated, I believe, by the New Zealand Law Society. Last week, the New Zealand Law Society, a body created by statute with the role of providing submissions on legislation on behalf of the law fraternity, they reported to the UN Periodic Review of Human Rights that 14 separate pieces of legislation and 11 in the last 2 years have undermined our rule of law and fundamental human rights. Of these, 5 laws remove the court's constitutional role of judicial review. 3 laws give unjustifiable power to that executive. 5 laws breach the Bill of Rights Act. 4 laws passed with very serious human rights concerns. And this government in this House is now currently considering another 3 bills with further serious human rights concerns. These bills, 6 of them removed rights from New Zealanders in what I would kind of characterise as in an effort to appeal to the get tough on crime crowd in New Zealand, in the face of all evidence that that approach works, and believes that it seems symbolic of this government's view that actually human rights, we can't do these things of creating safety in our society without removing somebody's fundamental rights and the role of the courts. They've also introduced 2 laws to this House in a similar vein, the GCSB bill and the telecommunications bill, that remove rights while increasing surveillance, all under the sense of creating threat that we need to be protecting New Zealanders from some unnamed and unsubstantiated danger that this government won't disclose. Other bills have removed democracy from Christchurch, removed environmental protections as well as democracy from the wider Canterbury area. It's entrenched discrimination against women on the DPB. It's removed the rights of judicial review and entrenched discrimination against some of the most vulnerable people in New Zealand, people with disabilities who want to be cared for by family members. It's removed rights and entrenched discrimination against some of the world's most vulnerable people, asylum seekers who need to seek asylum in this country. There are numerous examples of the government favouring their mates. They've introduced what we call the Anadako law to make protests on the sea illegal. They've been indulging in dodgy Sky City deals. And what it's all about when it comes down to it is a misuse of power, and this country deserves more.
Senator Sam Watawinga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to